FayWhat show, we need to help my gay boys, all right? And in our segment, Dear Faye, I provide my expert lesbian knowledge and my vast experience as a living, breathing gay boy in a lesbian body to help my fellow gay boys. This week, I like Botox too, but from Coral Springs sent us an email. You ready to help me with this?
I got you.
Okay, good. All right, here we go. Dear FayWhat, my friend has a problem. He's going to various doctors for more and more Botox, fillers, and other enhancements, and it's starting to make him look, well, crazy. Almost every time I see him, he looks like he's had another round of getting something altered. Whether it be more filler in his cheeks or more Botox around his forehead, I basically can't even tell if he's having emotion anymore because his face won't move. Or getting his lips plumped up, he's always doing something. The sad part is when I met him a few years ago, he was already a very handsome guy. Clearly, he has some warped view of himself and just isn't seeing himself the way others do. He thinks getting more work done is helping things, but it's making them worse, I think. How do I convey that he's actually taking it too far? I don't want to insult him because his self-esteem seems to be fragile, but if I don't say something, I fear he's going to look like a human Ken doll soon. Signed, I like Botox too, but in Coral Springs.
Ooh.
I mean, that's hard in our because in our community, you know, we like to indulge in our enhancements, you know?
I have to say, I am like to each his own, right? And I think that people have to make their decisions on their own of how they want to do things and how they want to look, but I'm not a fan. I like people looking natural. I'm turned off by a guy who like does his lips and like I'm just a little turned off. Like I'd rather it be natural. And to the writer's point is that his friend was already beautiful. I think that there's something missing in his life, and I think perhaps he doesn't have a partner or he's single, and that's why he's feeling like he needs to do these enhancements. But I see guys with it, and I'm just like. God, you look much cuter, like before. And again, this is just my preference. Everybody has their own taste. I remember, like, you know, I met a guy like 2 years ago on Grindr. He was sober, like me, like us, you know, and I was like, yeah, like, I can't wait to meet him. And his pictures looked great Latin guy, like Cuban, mixed with Puerto Rican. I was like, yeah.
Oh, exactly what you like.
I'm like, perfect. I'm like, perfect. I'm like, my mom's gonna love him. He's Cuban like us, you know, like, great. I see him in person. I'm like, holy shit. Like he got like his lips was huge, and I'm like, he must have just went that day to like get an injection, whatever. I was like, bro, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I was like, I cannot do this. So, but this is tough. Like how to help the writer here. I think he needs to somehow show and communicate to his friend that he's beautiful and that perhaps he doesn't need all these surgeries. Yeah.
You know, our community is really ageist. Really ageist, you know, and that's unfortunate, right? Like twinks want to stay twinks as long as they are. And I've heard twinks get told, don't turn 30 because then you ain't no twink no more, you know?
You're done,
and
that's it. Yeah.
30, folks, are you kidding me? You know, like that time between 30 and 50 is such a weird in-between time, and you're beautiful and perfect during that time, but you're thinking that you should still be a twink, you know? Now, you're a therapist, so I have to ask you about, because my wife, every time I say that I'm fat or something, right? She goes, you have body dysmorphia, right? Is that a real thing?
It is a real thing. It is. So many people have this.
Okay.
I mean, I even have it, to be honest with you. I never think that I look good enough, right? So it is a real thing, and it does impact our mental health. And so we start to do things such as get Botox, right? Or get enhancements. Some people take it a little bit further. I have an ex who was actually on steroids, and that just changed his whole mood because he really thought that he didn't look good. Meanwhile, this guy is jacked as fuck, looking fabulous, but still thought that he wasn't good enough.
And those roids make you not well in the head sometimes too, depending on how you're doing it. If you're doing it professionally or with somebody, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
it has a negative impact. Like, I think that I saw a study that 75% of people that was studied have a negative impact, and just negative impacts. It's a huge percentage. It invokes anger, it invokes just a whole bunch of depression, all these negative emotions.
And pimples. Doesn't it give you pimples too?
It gives you pimples all over your body. Not just your face, all over your back. So oftentimes when you go to the gym and you see people with people will say, oh no, it's from the sun. I have this like suntan and I'm sunburnt or whatever. And they're big. It's typically because they're on steroids and it has that adverse impact on their body. So it's a shame.
It's tough.
But the body dysmorphia it's a real thing.
It's a real issue. And it's probably prevalent high in our community.
The gay
big
community
time.
is big
Because,
time.
you know, we're marginalized and we don't think we're enough already just for being gay,
That's
you
right.
know? So we
That's
look in the mirror and it's like, society doesn't want us to be part, right?
Yeah.
So
we
it's a mind fuck.
It is a mind fuck. We have at Pride Lines, we have a bunch of guys called our prep boys, right? They're not boys, but they're men. But like we call them our prep boys because they look good, right?
Yeah.
And we have one who is like, he's beautiful. He has like a nice 6-pack and everything like that. But he's like, I'm just too fat. And we're like,
Where?
we're like, what the hell are you talking about? We just did this whole photo shoot with them, and people are going to think that it's AI, or people are going to think that we use models, but it's our actual staff. So when you see our new photos coming out and our new prep ads, and our new health insurance ads, it's our people that work in our organization. But he looks fantastic. Like, he's just thin, you know, but he looks great. But he's like, oh no, like I need to lose weight. I need to get it. I'm like, I wish I had some abs like you and a body like you, but it's a real thing. But you know, and he's happy for me to talk about this. Like, it goes back to some of his mental health issues that he has. You know, so it's all correlated, right? Our mental health is correlated to body dysmorphia, right? And so there is some deep issues, seated issues that we often have to deal with.
Yeah.
And that begins with acceptance and love.
Yes, yes.
And our forgiveness.
And that sounds an easy ask, right? It sounds like an easy ask, right? It sounds like an easy ask, right? But I mean, you know, I've got to say, I can only speak for myself. It took me a long time to like what was looking back at me in the mirror. I know a lot had to do with my addiction and stuff like that, but it's tough.
It is
you know,
tough.
it's tough. And everybody in the world can say you're gorgeous and you don't believe it.
You got to believe it inside.
And you got to believe it inside. You know, so to this gentleman, thank you so much for sending us this letter. You know, maybe an idea is maybe showing him some botched episodes or showing him some cases where things don't go right for people to that just get something small done. Maybe something like that, you know?
I think another thing, Faye, is just asking him questions about why is he doing it, right? Just getting to the bottom of why does he feel like he needs to do it? And I know he said that he has a low self-esteem, but just sometimes asking a question, because we assume, but we don't ask questions.
Yeah.
And so I think asking questions will get more information, and then that could determine how he deals with his friend.
See, that's great. That is great advice. I hope you heard that, Mr. Coral Springs, okay? Because that right there is key, you know, just talking to somebody. Like something that I do a lot when I see somebody that's down, I put on my interview hat. Right? People love to talk. People want to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
People want to talk about what they're going through. And you'd be surprised if you ask somebody a couple of questions like, hey, what was your high point and low point today? You'd be surprised the person's not used to getting a question like that.
That's right.
And then they stop and think about it. And all that is kind of like a healing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a healing. You know, to be able to let it out, because oftentimes people don't really have anybody to talk to about these things. And so when you ask that question, people feel validated, they feel loved, they feel, you know, seen and heard. And so that's their perfect opportunity for them to just come through.
See, look at me, therapist Faye.
I love that, Faye.
Okay, I'm just saying, I'm just a good friend. That's all right? So folks, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that email. If you've got a problem, send it on over and we will help you here at the FayWhat Show. Just email FayWhat@happeningout.com. Thank you for the email.